What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie. If you're new here, we live off-grid in Kentucky, and as you can see behind me, we are living in a reno zone. We live in a one-room cabin, and we're adding on 2 bedrooms and a kitchen, and baby is sleeping in the cabin, so I decided I was gonna record in here today because it's raining and muggy out. Hopefully the sound isn't too echoey and all that. We share our whole renovation on our YouTube, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can check it out. So today I'm actually going to be talking about my first son's birth story. So Roan's birth story, I recorded and uploaded a video right after he was born, but I don't think I went into detail. And looking back, there's a lot that I will change for my next pregnancy. So I was talking about my birth experience on Instagram with a lot of moms, and I wanted to share my birth story and then things that I'll do differently next time. So that's what we're gonna do. I will dive deep into my birth story with Roan and all the things that actually went wrong that I probably left out the first time because I was in a newborn bubble of happiness, but looking back it was really bad. And so things that I will try to do differently this time. There's not much control in hospital births, but you definitely have a say in how things play out. I'm trying so hard to not sound out of breath, but just talking, I'm so out of breath. I'm so much more pregnant this time around, so much quicker, and I knew that would happen, but like I can feel my hips moving, my hips widening, my legs hurt, I'm out of breath, I'm so tired, but luckily I haven't been sick. Okay, so we'll just jump in to Roan's birth. I did so much research, YouTube videos. I love Bridget's Built to Birth, her YouTube channel. I mean, I watched all of her videos. I was so educated on labor and everything that was happening. I listened to hypnobirthing. I listened to birthing meditations on my yoga ball every day to prepare, practice my breathing, all of that. So I felt prepared, I felt ready. I felt ready to advocate for myself, and I'm so glad I did because that completely changed how my birth went in a hospital setting. I knew that I didn't want to go to the hospital until I really needed to. And that's where the first things went wrong. So my mom was in town, of course. She was coming to the hospital with us, but you know, moms, sometimes they're not on the same page as you. And I was really wanting to deliver that day, but it wasn't looking good. My mom and I were doing everything that we could to start labor because my dad was going out of town the following Monday. And so I wanted to have the baby because my dad was coming in town so he could see him. And so I was doing everything I possibly could to start my labor, okay? And it was 6 p.m. on February 22nd, 2022, which I really wanted to have him on 2/22/22. And, but it wasn't looking good. So 6 p.m. I got in the bath and just like started like meditating, and anyways, I started getting contractions in the bath, and it just felt like just period cramps, but they started like coming in waves. So I didn't really say anything. You know, tensions were kind of high because, you know, my mom's there waiting for me to give birth. It could be today or 7 days from now, who knows? And so I wanted labor to start, but also it's so scary because then it's happening. So anyways, contractions started and I didn't really say anything. Got out of the bathtub, started timing them. Was on my yoga ball, had my noise canceling headphones, which were the life and blood of my labor. I recommend noise canceling headphones to everyone to prepare for labor and for labor. It was the best tool. So from the very beginning, my contractions always lasted 30 to 40 seconds, and they stayed between 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes apart, but they were not strong at all. Like, could totally, you know, just like period cramps. Sometimes they say to come in once, you know, your contractions are that far apart, but I knew this ain't nothing yet. So I didn't even tell anybody. I texted Dylan, he was at work, and then so he started to head home. That was around 6 p.m. Around 9 p.m., it was like they were getting a little bit closer together, but they still weren't that severe. But my mom was freaking out, like, we need to go to the hospital, they're blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, this is not my plan. So I was definitely influenced by my mom. which I don't blame her, like she's just being a mom. But we headed to the hospital, and first of all, when I got to the hospital, they had, like, I was going to an OB that was attached to the hospital. But when I got to the hospital, they had no information. I had to literally recheck in, do my insurance, do everything over again. And so that was not, my mom was not happy about that. And so we stood there in the waiting room and redid everything for a while. That was at 9 p.m. So I get checked in and she checks me and I'm only 1.5 centimeters dilated, and I was so angry. I was like, I knew we shouldn't have came in. I was so mad, and I was just trying to like just get over my anger. So what the hospital said was, we'll just keep you here for tonight, but we won't check you in since you aren't, you know, dilated or too dilated or anything like that. And so you can stay here, but we're not going to check you in yet. So they did absolutely nothing. They gave me a room, never came in, never checked on us, nothing. From there, my labor started to progress. So 9 p.m. we got there, and then, you know, my contractions started getting more and more severe and started progressing. And so I never laid in bed the entire time. I was so uncomfortable to lay in bed. I asked for a yoga ball, and I think I had the yoga ball on top of the bed, and I was like laboring standing up, like with my head leaning against the yoga ball. And I did that for a while, and then they started to get more and more severe. Eventually, my mom was like, Dylan, go ask the nurse to come in and check her. And so Dylan went and asked the nurse to come in. And so when she came in, I was 4 centimeters dilated. And the contractions were a lot more intense, definitely, like have to breathe through them and focus because they're really painful, but I still felt like I could do it. But again, my mom and I were not on the same page. She's like, Allie, just get an epidural. Like, if you're gonna be here all night, you need to rest, just get an epidural. And I was like, the nurse was like, the anesthesiologist isn't in, so if you want an epidural, then we gotta call him in, and like you have to decide now. So then I was like, okay, I was so influenced by my mother. And I was like, okay, I guess we will, you know? So that was around, maybe, I'm not sure what time that was, probably 10, 11, probably 10:30 maybe. So I had progressed really quickly in an 1.5 hours. From there, they put a fetal monitor around my stomach, which I hated. I hated it so much. One, I wanted, as the contractions got more intense, I just wanted to be on the toilet. I wanted to labor on the toilet. It was the most comfortable spot to be, and every time that I wanted to go to the toilet, I had to unplug from the machine and go sit on the toilet, and they wanted me to be plugged in, but that's not where I wanted to be. But anyways, no one even came back in to check on me after that, after she came at 4 centimeters, until I was literally sitting on the toilet. I'm like, Dylan, I'm literally going to myself, or I'm going to push this baby out. And so then they went and got the nurses again, and she comes back in slowly, and she's like, we like need to sign papers for your like epidural, put the IV in. Didn't have an IV in, nothing. And so I was like, no, I need to push this baby out right now. Can you at least just check me first? And so she checks me, and she's like, okay, you're 10 centimeters dilated. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to push. She's like, you don't want the epidural? I'm like, no, I don't want the epidural. Can anyone here deliver a baby? And I was so angry. And so they hadn't even called the doctor at that point. So that's when they're calling the doctor, when I'm literally ready to push, waiting. And now we have to wait for the doctor to get there. They're having me sign papers when you can feel, you know, your body knows when it's ready to push this baby out, okay? And they're having me sign papers. I'm like, can someone else sign them? Can my husband sign them? They're like, no, you have to sign them. I'm like, and then I'm laying in bed, which is the most uncomfortable spot for me so far. And then the nurses have the audacity. They tell me to pant like a dog, because you can't pant and push at the same time. So they did not want me to push this baby out. They told me to pant like a dog, stick my tongue out and pant like a dog. I was furious. I was literally screaming, can anyone here deliver a baby? Like I could have delivered that baby myself. Looking back, I would have delivered that baby myself. The doctor finally gets there. He was told my water wasn't broken, so he's going in to break my water. And he's like, your water's broken. And my doctor was a very straightforward older man, and we got along pretty well, but he wasn't like, I wasn't. Going into this labor, I knew that I wanted to go naturally or try, but I was completely open to getting an epidural or just seeing what happens because I had no idea what it was going to be like. I had no experience, obviously. And so I was open to anything. I just went with the flow. I was like, we live in a small town. I don't have many options. These people can deliver a baby, which they can, sure, but not how I wanted to deliver my baby. So anyways, I have this older man and we got along pretty well. He's a very straightforward guy. Anyways, it was time to push, and when I was pushing, I was like, I am so glad I didn't get an epidural. I'm literally just laying there wide awake. When I was pushing, I felt no pain at all. I pushed for an hour and 45 minutes, and I swear that is only because I didn't get to push when I was ready. And my nurse was so bad that she literally she asked me to start pushing when I wasn't even having a contraction. I was like, no, I'm gonna wait for my next contraction to come before I start pushing. It's like, that's not how it works. I'm so glad that I was so educated and could advocate for myself and tell them what I wanted and what needed to happen, because I don't know if she was new or what, but your nurse, that's who makes or breaks your labor. So you can ask for a new nurse. I didn't know that at the time, and also I'm pretty sure there were the only 2 nurses there, and I forgot to mention that I was the only person in the entire labor and delivery unit. There's 8 rooms and it was only me, so the fact that I got no attention the entire time is like really bad. And so anyways, I pushed for an hour and 45 minutes. I was so glad that I didn't get an epidural. I didn't tear, I just was slow, and like I could feel his head coming out, like I could literally feel his hair. And I think that if I got to push when I wanted to, it would have been a lot quicker, but I didn't. And so it all went okay though. I didn't have to get any stitches or anything like that. It was good delivery, and I was so happy with it afterwards. I was so proud of myself. I was so happy that I didn't get epidural, not that it matters at all, but I was happy with my labor and delivery in the moment. It's only looking back that all these things were like, what were they doing? But anyways, after that, my placenta didn't deliver, and we waited about an hour or so, and then my doctor decided that we needed to just do a D&C and suck it out of there. He had had a bad experience before, and he didn't tell me that until after, but he took care of it really calmly, and that also wasn't traumatic for me or anything. I was upset though because I just did this full natural labor, and then I literally had to get Pitocin, get numbed from the chest down and everything. But it was smooth, it all went really well, and it was no problem. So that was my delivery with Roan. So for my next delivery, I knew that I don't really want to deliver at the same hospital. We don't have a lot of options unless I want to drive an hour to an hour and a half. And so I started my OB appointments at the same hospital, and they got a lot of new midwives. They have 5 midwives now who also help deliver, which is really nice. But just the doctors there are so dated. Like when I walked into the room for my first OB appointment, I had Roan, and she's like, okay, are you still breastfeeding? I was like, yes. And she's like, you need to stop immediately. I'm like, that's not true. I don't need to stop breastfeeding just because I'm pregnant. That is so outdated. Like, where is your information coming from? And so just a lot of things we don't agree on, and it's so annoying, like not saying things or not getting the support you want from your provider. So Dylan and I are going to travel. It's about an hour and a half, and we're gonna go to a midwife center that is attached to a hospital. And we're gonna go see how it is. So we're gonna do our 20-week appointment there, and I'm just hoping that it's just way more supportive, and like Dylan took off work, came for my first ultrasound with Roan. We were so excited, and then they wouldn't let Roan and Dylan in the room because their children weren't allowed in the ultrasound room, which was just so disappointing. And like, tell me beforehand, that's something you should mention on the phone. And I was just so upset. So when I called the midwife center, they were so sweet. And I was like, are children allowed in the ultrasound room? And they're like, yeah, we only have 2 chairs. So if you have more than 2 kids, they'll just have to stand. And I literally started crying when I got off the phone with them because I just want to feel supported and like someone who is knowledgeable about different options. I want to push how I want to push, and I want to do what I want to do. It's my body, and this is, it doesn't have to be this, just because that's the way the hospital's used to doing it. And so I really hope that goes well and I make it there during delivery. So I don't know, I might keep doing my OB appointments at this hospital and then just drive there for delivery. I'm thinking that's the best option because we're already halfway through it, so it's crazy. Okay, so that was my first birth, and I obviously going without an epidural is really difficult, but I still would keep my options open for every single delivery because they are so different. Your labors are going to be so, they can be so different, just how the baby's positioned, where you're laboring, if it's in your back or in your front, and like there's so many different experiences. So I'm not against getting an epidural, and I might get one of these times that I labor, but the biggest thing is I just want to have the choice. And I don't want to be pressured into a decision. I want it to be up to me, and I want to be like fully supported if I say no to things, or if I want to walk around, or if I want to stand up. Like, I don't want to be forced into a bed and, asked to push. So a lot of people are like, why don't you have a home birth? And our house just isn't set up for somewhere that I want other people to be here yet. A bunch of people, it's too hard to get to. If there was an emergency and the ambulance couldn't get to me, like, it's just not a good place to birth. I would love to if I was in a better situation or if I was more experienced, but this is just not it this time around. I don't mind being surrounded by help, if anything were to go wrong. There's so many things that can go wrong during labor and after delivery that I definitely think I would want the help to be there. If we were in a better spot and situation, I would definitely consider a home birth, but I think a midwife center or like a birthing center is going to be a great option for me. So I'm glad that they're like attached to the hospital. A lot of people asked if we'd get a doula, and I'm not someone who's going to pay more for something. I'm not going to pay for someone to educate me on things that I can educate myself on. So I feel very well educated. This time around though, I am so much lazier, which I think is really hurting me. Before, I worked every day until the day that I gave birth, and I was on my feet every day until the day I gave birth, and now it's me and Roan literally laying on the couch, laying around, and my body can feel the difference for sure. So I think that is going to be a lot harder. I'm still breastfeeding Roan. I'm trying to wean him slowly, and it's just such a fight for me and for him because I'm sad about it and I'm not gonna push it. It's easier for me to nurse him for sure than to say no and fight him on it. There are times when I do say no because I'm just over it in the moment, but he is definitely starting to wean himself. He's only nursing for a minute or two. He's definitely stopped nursing so much at night, which is nice. And I think once we get moved into bedrooms and he has his own room, that'll be like the big transition of cutting out the boob. Some things that I worried so much about that I will not worry about this time around is like using a pacifier or using bottles. I will definitely use a pacifier right away. I will use bottles right away. Last time I said I was going to do that, but I was too lazy. But I really want to incorporate bottles more often because it just gives you so much more freedom and also a chance for baby and dad to bond rather than just all of the weight falling on you for everything. And so I do want to introduce a bottle a lot sooner, and so hopefully that helps. I'll probably use a Haka more often and a hand pump. I think the hand pump is so much more efficient. I get to stay home with him. I'm so lucky for that. So I don't have a wall pump or anything like that. I had a Mom Cozy, but it didn't work very well. And so I'll probably just stick to a hand pump. We'll just use the sidecar crib again and then start co-sleeping probably. The goal though is, I don't know if Roan will be out of the bed by then or not. We will try our best. I think we might try Dylan sleeping with Roan for a while, but he has to get off the boob first, so it's tricky. But I don't mind it. I love co-sleeping. I love waking up to him. I love going to sleep with him. And like, you only get this for so long. It goes so fast. Like, I can't believe Roan is as old as he is. And so I love co-sleeping, and I don't even want Roan out of the room, but I also want to be able to sleep. So it'll be an interesting transition.